Greetings and salutations. It is I, Mr. Nothing, the museum curator of the weird and the strange and the host, who might be a ghost. Welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the strange and unusual literature that I have found in my travels across the realms. Today it's Sunday, at the time that I am recording this. It's also the end of August, which I believe means it is time for another exciting wrap-up and TBR video combination. Much like with KFC and Taco Bell, you have a lovely pairing of two things that belong together. This is basically the summary for the month. I do enjoy these videos somewhat. Like, I'd rather be talking about a book, of course, or something like that. But these videos give me a chance to discuss in more detail things I talked about earlier in the month. So if I said I didn't like something, maybe like I reflected on it and I'm like, oh, I did. So like I'll be able to talk about it here. Or if I absolutely loved something and I'm like, maybe it wasn't as good as I thought it was. Here's another chance for me to discuss that. But again, these videos are always somewhat of a chore. But that doesn't mean I don't enjoy it somewhat. So without further ado, let's talk about the wrap-up first. What did I read in August? I read, a fair amount. I probably would have read more, but the big thing that took up most of my time was the Lord of the Rings trilogy. All 6 books, and it's a sextilogy too. So the 6 books, Return of the Shadow, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, the Treason of Isengard, War of the Ring, and Return of the King. All 6 books. I read them and I had a great time. Like, I had noted in those videos that I had never read the Lord of the Rings series before. In high school, I was considering it, but I decided that reading it, that it would be too heavy for me, and because it's fantasy, it'd be so in-depth and like lore heavy that I would just abandon it pretty quickly, and I found that to be true and false. Like, there are parts of the Lord of the Rings sextilogy where, like the very beginning, I might have given up. I might have given up at the beginning of the Two Towers, the Betrayal of the Treason of Isengard, just because it's pretty slow and like it takes a while to pick up. And high school Mr. Nothing would have been like, this isn't for me. But there are definitely parts where I would have been like, this is my jam, like absolutely cool. I want to read more of this. Specifically, Elrond just talking about the Lord of the Ring, and especially the Mount Doom chapter. I would have been like, I love this series. Let's keep going to the very end. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was good. Like, I can't wait to read more Tolkien, which I will do in time. Absolutely wonderful. I'll put a link in the description to the playlist so you can find all the videos, including the final big analysis that I did of the series, because that was a lot of fun to talk about, and a lot of fun to really make those videos, because I was discussing something that I hadn't had a lot of experience with, but other people had told me is great, so I was giving sort of my fresh take on it, I think. I also read The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I found it to be very haunting. Like, there were a lot of spooky and gruesome and gross parts that I feel like really helped sell it as a horror story. But it was also confusing and kind of meandering at times. Specifically, I didn't understand why the people in the story were being punished by the mysterious elk woman, and I still don't really understand. Like, they broke sacred tribal laws, but it wasn't really specified that like the that like hunting on the land that belonged to the elders, like that would result in like a curse put on you. So it didn't really make sense, and like they killed a deer that or an elk that was carrying a child, but I don't really see why that had to result in their deaths. They all seem like okay people, like trying to make it in Indian country, Choctaw or not Choctaw, Blackfeet country. Sorry about that. All trying to make a living in a society that typically looks down upon Indians. So like for them to be the ones suffering, it felt a bit unfair. Maybe it's just like a grand like metaphor for how natives are treated, but I didn't get it, and maybe I need to reread it to understand it. But I kind of don't want to reread it, and I don't think it was at least not worth an immediate second reread. So that's that. I also read Space Opera by Catherine Valente. I had previously read her book, The Refrigerator Monologues, and I'd say it has the same voice, and it's same sort of ideas and like freshness. It definitely like leans heavily on The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I think that's fair. More people should like borrow from Douglas Adams. But at times it did seem to lean too heavily on it, in that I got more Douglas Adams out of it than I did Catherine Valente, and I really wanted to hear her voice. And if her voice is just Douglas Adams' voice, then like solely Douglas Adams' voice, not like mixed. Like then we already have a Douglas Adams. We don't need someone like just copying his style totally. Like adapt it a little bit. But I thought the story was very interesting, and like the idea of like using myth punk and space punk to examine colonialism and race and sexuality and gender. I thought that was an interesting idea, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading more from Valente in the future. I also read Princess in Waiting by Meg Cabot, part of my Princess Diaries read-along series. Personally, I enjoyed the third book in the series, and this is the fourth book in the series, and it felt like a real like dip in quality, to the point where I'm seriously questioning like, when do I move on to the next book? If ever will I move on to the next book? I don't really know. It wasn't particularly good. Definitely a lot of problems with her trying to establish like solid characters, and like also trying to give Mia agency, and she's trying, like I see her make an effort throughout the story, but it always comes back to like somebody else having to step in for Mia and make a decision on her part to result in her having a better life, or like help her navigate her princess-ship. And yeah, so I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done before this series can be considered even remotely recommendable to the youths of America today, especially when there's probably a lot of better research, or a lot of better like juvenile lit out there. And I'm also currently reading The Land That Time, or wait, sorry, not currently reading. I finished reading The Land That Time Forgot by Edgar Rice Burroughs. In my video, I said that I enjoyed it, but it felt a bit sexist, and like it felt like it was just action heavy, very pulpish, like just here's some heroic manly things that are happening and some exciting creatures to fight, and it's exactly what it seems like on the surface. There's nothing deeper hidden there, which I'm hoping isn't like a theme with Edgar Rice Burroughs like writing, because I would love to explore more, because this was entertaining, and I would like to see more if it's of similar quality. But yeah, it's not very deep, and like I'd recommend it if you just want to like have some fluff to read and you want an adventurous story, but I wouldn't recommend it if you want to go any deeper and have to and want to think about what you're reading. I also read a couple short stories. Dominion, I got an advanced review copy of that. I thought it was pretty good. Lots of stories from diverse authors, and I'm looking forward to reading more from these authors in the future. I read Father Brown by G.K. Chesterton. It felt like I said this in my video, like it felt like a Sherlock Holmes ripoff from someone who didn't know why Sherlock Holmes was good. Very boring, rambling on about nothing in particular, with mysteries that weren't quite enticing, and like it's definitely a low point in my August, and I can't recommend that to anybody. Then I read Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, by two authors, Judy Barrett. A quality short story for children, and it's always fun to reread it now as an adult, so go out there and seek it, regardless of your age. And then I have read Bring Out the Dog, by some military man. I don't really care to name him. I thought it was very forgettable, and it's just a drop in the bucket of military memoirs. What I particularly didn't like about it was because it felt a little jingoistic at times. Although it was balancing between jingoistic, it was like super America is great, and also war is hell, and why did we have to go to this war? And I feel like these two things are conflicting, and they don't produce a story worth reading, or a collection of short stories worth reading. Very skippable, again, forgettable, and like I don't recommend anyone really go out and seek it. Lastly, in the month of August, I read a couple of poems. Bilingual by Tato Laviera, a quality poem that was interesting to read because of the mixture of Spanish and English. I read Emily Dickinson's poem about bees, and I read a couple more poems. Go check out my poems for the last month if you are a fan of Poetry Thursday, which more people should be a fan of Poetry Thursday. And now we move on to my TBR. What do I have planned for the month of August? Well, within the next week, I should have a review out for The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick, which is a book about an alternate history where Germany and Japan won World War II and have now occupied America. It was made into an Amazon TV series that I never watched, and I'm 100 pages in, and like I like what I've read so far, but I really hope it picks up because it feels a bit empty at this point. And that's never a good feeling when you get to 100 pages in a book. Like usually, my opinion is that by page 50, you need to tell me where you're going, depending on how many pages you have. But like you need to kick it into gear by page 50, in my opinion. If you disagree, feel free to comment below. It's always good to have a discussion about like when books need to pick up, if ever they need to pick up. So yeah, looking forward to hearing from you there. I also want to read Before I Fall, which I have on my bookshelf over here. I want to reread this specifically. I had read it a couple times before, and I loved it. It's one of my favorite books. I'll say that. Like this is always a go-to when I from time to time. It's about a girl who dies in a car crash and then wakes up on the same day, and she goes through this again and again and again, trying to figure out how exactly to break the time loop. And I'm a sucker for time loops. I absolutely love time loops, specifically Groundhog Day, but also more recently Palm Springs, which you can find on Hulu. Quality movie with Andy Samberg. So yeah, I'm looking forward to rereading this again and discussing it with all of you. I want to get back to Shakespeare. I keep putting that off. Shakespeare September, as Noah at Everyone Who Reads It Must Converse has said, and also the Codex Cantina. When I made my video about The Tempest, they're like, "Oh, give him another chance," and so I'll try. I want to read a comedy of errors and try my hand at like Shakespearean comedy. Is it any good? We will find out. As for other books, I do want to read The Arctic Incident. Like a month or two ago, I did read the first book in the Artemis Fowl series, which I found to be pretty solid. again, like I'd read it before, and it's really fun to read the Artemis Fowl, the first Artemis Fowl book, because it's a siege story, and it's just absolutely great. I adore it. I remember not being as big a fan as the Arctic Incident, so it'll be fun to re-explore my thoughts there, and see if it holds up to the previous book at all. And then I continuing my theme of reading wild, unexplored worlds. I want to get around to reading Michael Crichton's The Lost World. I had previously read Prey, I think last month, but I didn't enjoy that at all. Well, somewhat I enjoyed it. I didn't really like the ending. I felt Michael Crichton had a great premise that he failed to execute. You can find more in my video about that. But I did read Jurassic Park, and I thought that was a great book. So I want to read the sequel because I haven't gotten around to reading it. There are a couple of short stories that I want to get to. I checked out Everything Inside by Elridge Danticat, which is a book that I've never read, or an author I've never really heard of. So I'm looking forward to talking with that this Tuesday, the first Tuesday in September, in case that's a little bit vague after this video comes out. I also want to get around to reading Jumanji. I had said I wanted to read that when I did my Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs video. It'll be pretty interesting, and it's Jumanji, so like it should be a lot of fun. I don't have much else planned for short stories, kind of running low, and I do want to find some, again, like Around the Weird. I feel like I'm not doing that aspect of it, although I have found a lot of like Scottish and women authors, so that's good. But I do want to find maybe short stories from Asia countries, or South American countries. Try to find those as I move along. And then also I want to try to read Asimov. I've been putting that off for a while, but I finally got to get around to reading Asimov because, I've read Philip K. Dick, and I read a bunch of the other like foundational like sci-fi dudes. So I want to get around to reading Asimov and see what he's like, and then I can formulate ideas and theories and wonderful conceptions of what 50s, 60s sci-fi looked like. In terms of poetry, Poetry Thursday, I don't really have anything planned. I play it by ear with that. I do want to find, again, as I mentioned with Short Story Tuesday, poems from Asia. I had explored a Japanese poet in the past, and I kind of want to explore more from Japan, but also China, Thailand, Vietnam, and those places. Amplify more Black voices if possible. I did check out A Pizza the Size of the Sun from my local library by Jack Perlutsky, a man who I consider to be the poor man's Shel Silverstein, but don't tell him I said that. He might be very angry with me. That's something that I'll probably read this Thursday. And that's really all I have planned. Lucas over at Bits of Lit did challenge me to something, which he said it should be ready by mid-September. So look out for that. And I'm thinking he's probably going to challenge me to read a series of books for Halloween, as we've been discussing that. But he's a bit of a wild card, so who knows what he's going to challenge me to do. But I just want to look him in the face, and tell him, like, I can handle anything you throw my way because I am a ghost, and ghosts can do anything. Anyways, so that is my wrap up and my TBR. If you have any books that you want to suggest that I read, or you have a comment about something that I said about a book that I have read, feel free to leave that comment below. I would love to have a conversation with you. We can talk about all manner of books and novels and such and such. Until then, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that other people may find out about, the books that I've been reading and what I have planned, so that they may suggest something too if they are interested. Until then, I wish you the best of times in your weird and September-y travels. Farewell.